us for sure, and many watching, we love DeFi because of the many benefits, the trustless aspect of it, the fact we get to interact with well-written code. But obviously not everyone feels the same, including governments, as we just saw with the Tornado Cash situation. What's your take on what happened with that from a regulation standpoint? And is this indicative of governments trying to attenuate or even shut down other DeFi protocols?
I'm not a big fan of it at all, really. The arguments for that have been articulated quite a bit, and we're going to see a lot of social media activity and professional activity now that Coinbase is funding that litigation against the US Treasury Department. Shout out to Coinbase for that. That's a great thing that they're doing. But I'm not a big fan of it. It seems it wasn't very well thought through. I'm of the opinion that, and I'm not alone on this, that OFAC didn't really know what they were doing, actually. And if they could go back in time, maybe they would at least have sort of put more groundwork down before taking this action. Because the fundamental thing is that this really is these smart contracts that constitute Tornado Cash. They're not an agency for an entity. They're not an agency for any person, meaning an individual or a business, which every other member or even blockchain address on that OFAC SDN list, what is it, specially designated nationals and persons list, something along those lines. It's a big list. The SDN list is this list of entities that no US person, individual or business, is allowed to transact with for any reason. And everything else up until the Tornado Cash smart contracts had been either an entity, so an individual or a business out there in the world, or a blockchain address, but the blockchain address would have been an agent for an entity. So there was even a mixing service on this SDN list before Tornado Cash, but this mixing service, Blender.io, was really just an agent for some centralized individuals. They had control over the blockchain addresses. It just wasn't autonomous like Tornado Cash is. And so that's the big difference here. And there's some really big implications of that, of course. If the SDN list just becomes this big scroll of software that people can't use, what's that going to do to developers who are developing software, generally speaking, is the argument. And I think that's a good argument. So that's my concern with it. And I only get that concern articulated within myself because there are much more experienced lawyers out there than me, lawyers that are like constitutional lawyers, that are US-based lawyers, which I'm not, who find this very distressing. And so I listen to them and I agree with them.